When it comes to free agency, there isn't anything more exciting than a trade. And we've had a few big ones the last couple of years. You go back to 2022 with Russell Wilson going to the Broncos, Tyreek Hill going to the Dolphins, and 2023 where the Packers moved both Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. So the question is, what big names will be moving this year? Who? We'll talk about who in this video as we go over possible trade targets as well as their landing spots. So let's go ahead, get this sucker started with Brian Burns, who technically is a free agent, though I don't think the Panthers would just let him walk for free. And honestly, could end up just getting re-signed by the Panthers. I think regardless, he probably gets slapped with the franchise tag, and they could be willing to move him for draft capital, as they don't have a first-round pick currently in this year's draft. Remember, it was just about a year and a half ago where the Rams offered 2 first-rounders and a second-rounder to get Brian Burns. While I don't think he's going to command that much, he might still potentially be worth, like for some teams, be worth 2 first-rounders. Or at the very least, I think a first and maybe a second, or a first and a third. It's going to be interesting to see, interesting to find out, because he's yet to really have that, I don't want to call it like a breakout year, but like he's yet to take that step into becoming an elite pass rusher. You know, I don't think I'd include him in my top 10, probably be around the top 15, but some of the possible landing spots I have for him, if the Panthers do so decide to tag and then trade him, because remember, the team would probably, the team trading for Burns will probably need an extension already planned out at that point. But I put Washington up here, and I think if they do move a first rounder, it's not coming out of this year's class, so it would be a future first rounder, which is kind of why I have them under teams like the Rams and the Ravens, which are teams that are like, oh no, we're kind of in a win now. We see this window for us when it comes to Super Bowl, so let's get these ready-made playmakers at the position rather than drafting, young talent that may become legit playmakers in the future. Let's just go ahead and grab a known commodity. That's why I have the Ravens here. This is a team that is going to be losing Javion Clowney. It's going to be losing Kyle Van Noy. Dave Rojabo is coming off another big injury. So they got Odafe Owe, Tyus Bowser, we'll see. He was hurt all this year. So they could definitely use more pass rush help. Brian Burns would help them with that. And then the Rams, this was a team that was willing to offer them 2 firsts and a second. I'm not saying they would probably offer them that much now, but they're probably like, okay, we could maybe get like a Liatu Latu with our first round pick, or we could just ship that pick and, I don't know, maybe a second or a third, or maybe it will cost us a future first. We'll see. I don't know if the market will be that. I mean, that's a lot. But we'll see. Go ahead and get Brian Burns to pair him up with Byron Murphy. You already have a very sexy interior with Kobe Turner and Aaron Donald. So, yeah, man, I think those are very appealing targets. Washington, again, it couldn't be a first this year. I just don't see that happen, especially, I mean, it's a second over pick. There ain't no way that's happening. But I'm trying to think of maybe a couple of other I mean, if you're an edge needy team and you got enough cap space to lay down an extension, a contract, I think probably be ideal. But I think the teams that'll probably be willing to like throw first rounders, or at least 1 first rounder at Brian Burns, is a team like a team that's basically that has this playoff Super Bowl window. But next on the list I have is Justin Fields. We kind of got to talk about Justin Fields, right? Because I think he's going to be moved. I know there are some fans out there that don't think it'll happen, and it might not. But I think he'll likely be moved because the Bears are picking at 1. Simple as that. So if he does get moved, let's just go ahead. Let's talk about if he gets moved. I think he goes for like a day 2 pick. Could be a second, could be a third in 2024. And I think a 2025 pick would probably be a conditional, like maybe a 4th that could turn into a second, similar to what we saw with Calvin Ridley when the Falcons traded him to the Jags. So I think that's probably the wheelhouse of compensation. I don't know. I've heard a lot of different opinions on this, different takes. But when it comes to the landing spots For me, Falcons kind of make the most sense. If you don't got to give up a first rounder or Justin Fields, you currently have nothing at the quarterback position. Yeah, let's just go ahead. Let's take our shot if it's not going to cost us a first rounder. I think it's worth it because, I mean, you're picking there at 8. It's like, oh, you could easily trade up for one of the top 3 quarterbacks. Well, that's not true. You could maybe trade up for Jaden Daniels or Drake May, whoever doesn't get selected at pick 2. Sure, that's a possibility. But we could just go ahead and take a swing on a 1-year rental with Justin Fields. If it works out, then you extend him. If not, then, hey, cool, you still have draft capital next year. So, I don't know. I feel like that's the location that makes the most sense. Steelers, you bring Justin Fields in, you have him battle out with Kenny Pickett, kind of see what happens. Kind of feels like a desperation play, but honestly, it's a fairly cheap desperation play. It might be worth it. And then the New England Patriots, you're picking at 3. I kind of like this because you can go ahead and grab Marvin Harrison Jr. and then you trade your, let's say 3rd. I don't know if the Patriots really want to trade a high 2nd round pick for Justin Fields, but yeah, I mean, suddenly you pair up Justin Fields with a very good, very elite weapon who I know some people will be like, oh man, he threw to Marvin Harrison Jr. back in the day. Not a lot. Time doesn't line up like that, guys. But I think those are interesting spots. I mean, kind of hard to project where Fields may go. There ain't no way he's going to the Raiders. Not what gets you there. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It certainly will be if he gets moved. I know that there's a lot of naysayers out there. Real quick, let's talk about today's sponsor, Aura. Y'all already know data brokers are out there selling your information to scammers, spammers, and everyone in between. They're selling your name, your email address, your home address, your health records, and even the information of your loved ones. I was shocked to see how many data brokers had my information. Y'all remember that meme? They're coming for everybody. So hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your husband. Well, Aura does just that. They have features such as antivirus, VPN, password management, which was huge for me, parental controls, which I love as a parent, identity theft insurance, and so much more. And they do it all from one app. It's really cheap as well for all that they provide, but you could try it for free for 14 days if you use the link in the description. So check it out. Not only is it a great way to support the channel, but it also supports you, the viewer. Next, we got Haason Reddick, who the Eagles have already said, yeah, hey, go explore trade possibilities. Currently, it's projected he could go for a 3rd round pick. And I mean, the dude is 29. It's not like he is in his twilight years quite yet. So, I mean, very much so. I feel like teams that, again, we see the Rams up here. We see the Ravens up here. Teams that are looking at that Super Bowl window be like, yeah, we could use a very, very, very good pass rusher. And I mean, it's not a secret anymore. The NFL knows how to utilize Haason Reddick. All right, man, you go and get after it from Y9 or 7 Tech. Just go and get it. He's very effective in doing so. So I think, yeah, the Rams could be in play. The Ravens could be in play, especially if the asking price is only like a 3rd round pick. That feels like a gimme to me. We could talk about the Falcons, who they have no pass rush. It's just not a good situation. I mean, Raheem Morris probably came in there and was like, yep, this has got to change. And Haason Reddick would be a step in the right direction there. It's going to be very fascinating as I imagine, the development with Nolan Smith is a big reason why they're like, okay, we can get a little cheaper if we move Haason Reddick. So we're ready to put Nolan Smith out there as his heir apparent. So yeah, it could be very fascinating where he lands. It could be a variety of squads. Don't know what his current cap hit is. I think he's currently in the last year of his deal. Big contract. He would be a cap hit of about 22 million. 22 million. So there's not a lot of teams that can eat that, or at least winning teams. Maybe the Lions. Shoot, I ain't gonna lie, man. Maybe the Texans. Colts could be fun. There's a few interesting locations that he could go, but let's keep the sucker moving with Mac Jones, mac and cheese himself. And I'm gonna be honest. Currently, the trade value that's floated out there is like a 5th or a 6th round pick. I wouldn't trade for Mac Jones. Me personally. He hasn't really shown much since, well, his rookie season. He had a promising 2 games, first 2 games this year against the Eagles and then the Dolphins. And then, everything hit the fan. So if he gets moved, I mean, he's probably looked at probably a backup. I mean, I don't know if you want to really roll him out there as your starter. You could have him come in and take part in the competition. But if you trade him for Mac Jones, he's not your answer. At least he shouldn't be your plan A at quarterback. That's why Steelers kind of make sense. Come in, have him contend with a Kenny Pickett. The Falcons, I imagine they're going to bring in another quarterback regardless. So he would compete with whoever's there. And then Denver Broncos, another team who's, I guess you could have them compete with other Patriot great, Jarrett Stidham. But, I feel like the Broncos are going to be trying to use that first round to get a quarterback. So he would probably be competing with whoever is there. It's going to be fascinating. Jarrett Stidham, kind of interestingly, I think if the Broncos were to do something like this, you trade for Mac Jones. I don't know what the dead money looks like if you were to cut Jarrett Stidham. But, he's one of the more pricey backup quarterback contracts in the league. So you have Mac as your backup. You maybe bring in a JJ McCarthy. Oh, that's right, guys. He's getting top 15 love. That sounds like he's going to go early in the draft. But again, we're in smoke and mirror season, so who knows. But you don't have to start JJ right away, and you have Mac Jones, who could get you some wins and such. So, I don't know. It'd be fairly interesting. I personally wouldn't want to go out and trade for Mac Jones. Let's go to wide receivers. I got Jerry Jeudy on this list. I was talking all year about Jerry Jeudy possibly getting moved prior to the trade deadline. Along with Courtland Sutton. I honestly thought, because the Broncos started out real bad, I honestly thought that they were going to start moving some of their more expensive parts. And I know prior to the trade deadline, they were talking about a first round pick, maybe early second round pick for Jerry Jeudy. And I just don't think the value is there. I think maybe a 3rd round flyer on him sounds about fair, because the talent is there. So I think that's about right. I think if he does get moved, it's probably a 3rd round pick is kind of on the nose. So, because it's not like the contract is big. It's not. We could bring up an Amari Cooper who got traded for a 5th rounder, but it's also his contract was kind of big and he had to find a team that would be willing to take on a contract like that. So the landing spots that I have, I love the idea of this because Jerry Jeudy is a separator. So I have the Panthers up here. You need some separators for Bryce Young. That was kind of a big thing last year, as the receivers failed to create separation. If you're gonna use a pick on a wide receiver, might as well get a guy like Jerry Jeudy, who honestly has about a good year and a half on him when it comes to production. So I think it'd be worth the swing. New York Jets, man, get more weapons for Aaron Rodgers. I love this idea. Garrett Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, that sounds really scary to me. I like that. I like it quite a bit. And then you have the Chicago Bears, which I think is kind of an obvious answer. Because, I was looking, at least these first 2 teams, when it comes to the Jets, comes to the Bears, I think these are teams that don't need Jerry Jeudy to be wide receiver 1. And it works out perfect. You got DJ Moore there. And, for the Bears, just because you trade for Jerry Jeudy doesn't mean you don't have to draft the wide receiver position. It doesn't. Go ahead, take your flyer on him. Hey, this is a better flyer to take than, say, Chase Claypool. So I like those 2 spots. We can talk about other spots or options. I thought Jags were a team that popped in my head, but I'm like, that's not the type of receiver they kind of need. That's just kind of more Christian Kirk So that wasn't a squad. Maybe the Patriots. I could see them throwing a third rounder for Jeudy. They need to get better at the wide receiver position. That's not out of the realm of possibility. So there's a couple of spots I'll be looking for wide receiver. Let's move to the defensive end with Joey Bosa. I'm going to include him here and not Khalil Mack. I don't think Khalil Mack gets moved. I think he gets released, if anything. But if he does get moved, it's going to be for like nickels and dimes. But I got a third round pick currently on Bosa. I mean, the talent's there for it. It's just, can the man stay healthy? That's kind of the, golly. Can you just stay healthy, Joey? Can you just stay healthy? We know the talent's there, but man, just stay healthy, Joey. So third round pick, not 100% on that. Some people want to go higher, and I'm just like, nah. Availability is the best type of ability you can have, and Bosa hasn't really had that throughout his career. So some of the landing spots, dude, pairing Joey Bosa up with freaking Montez Sweat, that just sounds sexy as hell. That is sex appeal right there. We could talk about the Detroit Lions. Get Bosa opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, the Lions have some of the cap space to make a move like this. People forget, when it comes to free agency, trade-in is also a big part of that. Just because you don't spend cap on free agents, you certainly can when it comes to trade assets. So I think the Lions would be a team that's like, you are so close to tasting the Super Bowl. So you're trying to find those parts that can just kind of push you over the edge there. And then the Tennessee Titans, a team that just, man, the pass rush wasn't great for them. It really wasn't. So if you, man, I don't know. Part of me likes it, but doesn't. Titans can make a move, but if Joey Bosa can't stay healthy, but again, I mean, maybe he turns the corner and suddenly just becomes healthy and it becomes just a house wrecker at that point for the Titans. I mean, it's worth taking a shot. It's a third round pick that I think the Titans currently don't have, but it'd be worth taking a shot. There's obviously other pass rush needy teams that could go that way. Like looking at some of the potential teams that'll have cap space to make moves. I mean, we could always talk about the Commanders, the Patriots. Ooh, I kind of like that one. Maybe I should have put the Patriots here instead of the Titans. But yeah, those are a few of the ones that I like for Bosa. How about we go to running back, as I got Alvin Kamara. I think the Saints, they got to get under the cap. They're currently, $83 million over the cap. They got to get under it, which means they're going to be restructuring a whole lot of contracts. And if they can, I think they would want to move Alvin Kamara. They drafted Kendre Miller to be their apparent. James Williams was brought on as a guy to kind of help in that regard. So they were trying to get cheaper at the running back position. So it just means moving Alvin Kamara. I don't think you're going to get a lot for him, though. That's why I put a pick swap. I think Alvin Kamara is going to get thrown in for someone to make their fourth rounder 18 picks higher. That's the type of value I think, unfortunately, Kamara currently has. That's kind of the way the run back position is. You had, I think, DeAndre Swift was in a similar boat last year. I don't remember the actually what the trade was. It may have just been straight up fourth, which I don't know. The thing was, DeAndre Swift wasn't expensive. Alvin Kamara is freaking expensive as hell. So some of the teams that'd be willing maybe to swap, like do a pick swap, take on his contract, because honestly that's the bigger part of it. I like the Eagles as a potential, but again, that's a lot of contract. They'd have to restructure some things. Minnesota Vikings, they're kind of not good at running back. They're just not. Add an Alvin Kamara, and especially that passing game, can do a world of wonder. And then you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, who won't have the cap room if they're able to hang on to both L'Jarius Sneed and Chris Jones? But this feels like a sneaky Chiefs play where they can get a guy like this in the passing game. Could be real fun, but a little less likely. It's just I didn't have a lot of teams that'd be willing to take on that contract. Really, like what? Cardinals? No. Bears? No. Texans? It's a thought. But yeah, there's not a lot of teams that I would want to take on Alvin Kamara's money, unfortunately, and potentially his problems. So he's one we gotta include. Might end up just being a cap casualty at the end of it, but like I think it gets real sticky there where he has to be like a post-June 1st cut. Davante Adams, the next one on the block, and he is the one guy on this list that I actually think won't get moved, won't get traded, but his name is talked about quite a bit when it comes to when you're talking about like potential trade targets. So let's at least talk about him. Let's at least do that. For his trade value, I have a day 2 pick and a day 3 pick. So I'm thinking like a second and a 4th, second and a 5th. I don't think I would give up a first rounder at this point for Davante Adams. For me, that just scares me in this later part of his career at 31. Am I gonna be getting like a couple? Like I'll be getting a couple of years. So do I just want to get like? I don't think I want to give a first rounder for that. But if you say second rounder with maybe like a 4th on top of it, shoot, I'd be willing to throw a 5th as well. Then we're talking, man. I kind of like that. So I think this is why the Raiders won't move him. They're going to want a first. I don't think teams are going to want to give a first. So I got the Jaguars as a potential target. Freaking get Trevor Lawrence, that sweet X wide receiver. He needs it. This is a team that, quite frankly, we don't see a lot of progression this upcoming season. I could see parts of that coaching staff, mainly the offensive parts, getting axed. The Jets, it just kind of makes too much sense to reunite Aaron Rodgers with Davante Adams. And it sounds fun as hell. I don't know how they do that with, like, I guess they'd have to do it with the 2nd round pick. Or a 3rd round pick, I mean, because they don't have a 2nd round pick. So maybe they have like a 2nd round pick I guess you what you do is give them a conditional 2nd round pick for 2025, and then it can maybe work its way into a 1st rounder, like similar to like Aaron Rodgers' stuff. But I think that one's fun. That's one a lot of people mention. But sneaky, I think Panthers. I think Lions, different type of cat there. I think Lions could be a big buyer if this were the case, man. A team that just feels like it's a couple of parts away. Go out and just grab Davante Adams to add him to Amon-Ra St. Brown, J-Mo. You got Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, very good receiving options. Suddenly it's like Jared Goff. It's Jared Goff and freaking all of his weapons, man. He's like Iron Man out here now. He has so much artillery. So here we have Brandon Aiyuk, which I find very interesting, right? You had his friend come up on Instagram, talk all this mumbo jumbo about how Aiyuk should get out of the Bay Area. And hey, Ayuk's gonna be given a lot of money. Like, he is gonna demand quite the hefty extension. Can the 49ers, well, can they make that kind of cap space for the future? It's gonna be tight. Or you could do what the Tennessee Titans did, which maybe that's not the best example, but do what they did with AJ Brown and move him for a 1st and a 3rd. Yes, I think Aiyuk is worth that much. The dude is one of the best route runners in football. The guy is a budding star. Watch out. And I do think a team would be willing to take that. The question is, what team? Who? So couple of the teams that I have as potential landing spots, I think the Chicago Bears should definitely be in play. Maybe, hey, see if you could trade down. Yeah, that's right. Trade down early in free agency. And then, or maybe even during the draft, maybe Aiyuk doesn't get moved. But that's the thing. Do you really wait? But if Aiyuk potentially is on the chopping block when it comes to like the trade block, so to speak, I mean, do you really just wait till the draft and like try to maneuver it perfectly to where, okay, we Bears, we trade down a few picks and then we make that offer so we're not just giving them the 9th overall pick? I don't know, man. It's kind of fascinating. I mean, I feel like you just make that pick in the offseason, thinking another team probably would. So, like, maybe you just offer a first rounder in 2025. That's probably where it's at. But, yeah, the Bear adding him next to DJ Moore, golly, dude, that's sex appeal. That's sex appeal. And the Bears got the money to make the extension work. You could say a similar thing about the Falcons, pairing them up with Drake London. You get a radically different type of receiver in there who I think would be a really good fit for Zach Robinson's offense that he's going to be whipping out there for the Falcons. Question is, though, do you really want to give that first round pick? Like, because you're picking at 8 at that point. So it's like, maybe we give one next year. And then the Panthers, who don't have a first round pick this season, I think would love to get a wide receiver who can separate like Brandon Aiyuk. They need that. So yeah, Panthers should definitely be in play. If you're going to try to build around freaking poor Bryce Young, then yes, get him a legit number 1 target. But I want to look at maybe some of the other teams that could be in play here. Like Patriot, honestly, no, probably not. You're picking at 3, so you probably shouldn't. Again, I'm curious what first rounders this year. Like the Texans would be interesting. The Colts could be interesting. That'd be very interesting. Then I imagine they're not bringing back Michael Pittman, or you could, I guess. You could talk about the Cardinals, the Lions. Very much probably should be in play, but I don't know. Maybe there's no hard feelings between the Niners and the Lions. They'll let that deal go through. But yeah, man, I don't know if he gets moved this year, but golly, that might be the biggest name that gets moved in free agency via trade if it does happen. Then last but not least, let's go back to the defense one more time with Justin Simmons. This definitely feels like it will happen, or at least it could happen, because I think the Broncos are going to try to shed some of those larger contracts, which Justin Simmons unfortunately happens to have one there. Now, I got him down as multiple day 3 picks. I don't know if I'd want to give up a day 2 pick for a 30-year-old safety. It's just not necessarily a high position of value. But like you're talking, okay, let's give a 4th, a 6th, 4th, a 5th, and I feel a lot better about that. It's going to be teams that feel like they're a heck of a lot closer to the Super Bowl that'd be willing to give up that capital, because keep in mind, they're also going to be taking on his contract. So like I think of the Eagles, who did a similar thing with Kevin Byard. Unfortunately, that didn't work. You have the Packers, who it feels like they don't have a safety on the roster. Maybe I think Rudy Ford, probably the only guy there, right, at safety. So yeah, they could go in a team that feels like they're really close, or the Buffalo Bills, who another team that outside of I think Damar Hamlin, they won't have a safety on. Oh, maybe Micah Hyde. I think he's the one that'll be on contract. Or is it Poyer? I can't recall. But regardless, Hyde and Poyer, they're old. I mean, Simmons, it's not like he's a spring chicken, but he's like 3 years younger than those guys. So the Bills definitely could be in play for, like, because Justin Simmons is still putting out stud performances. He's still a very good safety in the league. It's just, unfortunately, it's a less valuable position. So I think these teams that have these Super Bowl aspirations, that may feel like in the back end, in the secondary, they could definitely use a little bit of oomph. Simmons could be right up their alley. But hey, if you haven't taken a look at my landing spots for NFL free agents, go ahead and take a look at that video. I'll put it right down here. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.